Well, hello again, and here today we are with Duncan. Nice to meet you, Duncan. Well, not nice to meet you. Nice for everyone else to meet you, perhaps.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Scotland. I've always had a very strong interest in languages since I was a child, and I've been fortunate to be able to develop that interest at different levels since then. Um, I've got a very strong interest in medieval history, and that's what I kind of followed through my university education up to my PhD. And for that, medieval Scottish history, knowledge of Latin really is imperative. And so that's when I kind of first got my first taste of Latin.
Tell us a bit about your PhD. Was your
My PhD was a study of Adamnan of Iona's Life of St. Columba. It's a really important text for studying early medieval Scotland and Ireland, and is used as evidence for, well, just about every aspect of it. And my PhD was a literary analysis of it. So I was looking at things like structure. I was looking at certain themes that crop up, and language and Latin style was another thing that I considered in it as well.
so one of my medieval classes did some of it maybe last year, and it's really interesting text. So now you're doing some Latin with me, which is kind of funny. What brought you to Seamus View? What tipped you over the edge?
Well, I felt that my Latin wasn't really strong enough for the kind of work that I want to be able to do. I didn't do any Latin in school at all, and I didn't do any as an undergraduate either. I started my Latin learning when I started my PhD, which I think is becoming increasingly common among medievalists. At any rate, that language training isn't really introduced until that level. Not universally, but certainly quite common. And the teaching that I had was quite traditional in its methodology. It was a couple of classes a week with, here is such and such a declension, this is the subjunctive, and then here's some things to translate, and so on. And there were sort of smaller groups where we worked in more detail on particular things. But it was quite traditional teaching of the language, that grammar translation model. And I was reasonably good at it. You know, I did quite well in those classes. I felt quite confident. And while I was working on the PhD, I felt that my Latin was, you know, not brilliant, but what was good enough for what I was doing.
Yeah.
However, once I started moving on to other things, so texts that don't have already available English translations that I can check that what I think this text says is what it in fact says, I realized that I'd learned how to learn Latin rather than actually learning Latin. If I was given text completely cold, I could work my way through it with a dictionary very slowly. If it was prose. If it was poetry, I'd be really struggling just with the syntax being quite challenging. And I just felt that my Latin is not good enough to be able to do what I want to do with it, to be able to read Latin easily, to be able to read historical sources, theological sources, far less being able to teach these with confidence. I thought I really got to improve on this. And over the years, I've picked up various books. I'm gesturing towards them. You obviously can't see them, but they're there, I assure you. Collins' Primer of Ecclesiastical Latin, the Reading Medieval Latin anthology as well. And I would go through these, but although in the moment, as I was going through each one, I felt that I knew what I was doing, I would always keep running up against this. When I encounter real Latin in the wild, I felt out of my depth. And I thought, I've really got to work on that. So I saw your social media, on Twitter, about saying, there are these other methodologies, they're much more effective. These will get you a better understanding of the language and confidence in using it. And I thought, well, okay, these other ways I've been doing haven't been giving me that. I'll try something else. So I did.
Nothing to lose by trying something else. And I think it's often the case, particularly medievalists find, medievalists know better than perhaps classicists, that when you get to a text and there's no translation to check against, you're doing the tightrope with no net. It's like, if I can't figure it out, no one's going to help me.
Yeah, and I could find, if it was a charter or something, if it's fairly stereotyped in its form and you kind of know the gist of it, you can puzzle your way through it. But, I read Gaelic very easily. If I pick up a book in Gaelic, I can read it. And there might be a word or two here I don't know that I look up, but it's just reading. If I'm reading something in Scots, if I'm reading something in Spanish, the same. And I wasn't able to do that in Latin. It made reading things in Latin a chore. And it shouldn't be a chore. It should be something that's pleasant. It should be something that's fun. It should be something that's engaging. It should be something that gives you what the text has to give you, rather than having to pull it out like, like drawing blood from a stone.
So you've been with me, well, just really a term and a little bit now. What's been your experience? Or
Well, the experience has been very positive. Small class sizes, so everyone gets a good opportunity to speak, to take part. It keeps you on your toes because it keeps being your turn, quite soon after your last one. So you've got to be paying attention. And I think that the materials are very good. The Lingua Latina materials are really very intuitive for going over them. There's the sort of advanced material. Again, I'm looking towards them as if they're showing up on camera. They're not.
They're there.
I assure you they're there. Really well produced, really intuitive to work with. Before I did the course with you, I'd worked through about maybe 10 chapters or so of the first Lingua Latina book, and immediately found that I was getting much more from it than I was from the more traditional method. I don't know if I would have done if I was coming to it completely cold, because I already had some Latin, but I found, oh, right, okay, I understand much more about what this is doing. I can get into reading things that are okay, they're quite simple texts, but they are texts, and doing that in the class accelerates that still further. So you're going through with a tutor who knows the material, knows the language, and is structured in such a way that really reinforces what you're getting from the book very well. And where there are ambiguities and there are things that you can't figure out on your own, they're well explained and outlined. I found the experience to be not only good pedagogically, it's improved my confidence in reading Latin, so that now even when I'm reading these other medieval things, as you say, it's only been one term. I've done the Latin 101 in the first week or so of the follow-on course. I can read it with more confidence than I could before, even after just that one. And seeing the other options that are available and the other things that you offer, I want to do them. I see them, I think, oh, that'd be fantastic. Oh, it'd be really good to read patristics, properly. And if you're learning anything and it encourages you to keep learning and learn more, that's always a good sign. And that's certainly been my experience.
Okay. Last question. If someone's thinking about coming to Seamus U, they're on the edge, they're like, should I, shouldn't I? Or not sure what to expect. What's your one word of advice? Or
well, 2 words. Do it. Age.
Age there.
Age, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for taking some time, and pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, been my pleasure as well.